Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Facebook Live. Today is the 29th of December, year 2021. We are approaching the end of this year. Can you believe that? And we are into almost 2022. So happy new year for 2022. I am going to introduce everyone that is here from our panel. I welcome April, who is a psychic, and I see Caesar joining, so shortly we'd see Caesar as well. So welcome April, she's a psychic and a spiritual teacher. Good evening. And then we have Patricia, who is a fellow member who has joined us. Good evening, Patricia. And then Ellen has joined us as well, who is a fellow member. Good evening, Ellen. And then we are joined with Ken, who's here as well, a fellow member and a group meditator. So dedicated to our group meditation practice. And then good evening, Caesar. Thank you so much for making it. He is our channel and spiritual teacher on the panel. So we left the last session with a question from Ellen. So Ellen was talking about that her nieces were, there was an autism kind of issue. And there was one time, Caesar, you said something about faster frequencies as well. So I want to delve on that as well. So April, here comes the question. What is the relationship between dementia, which your elderly relative had, right? Father, I think. Dementia and this autism spectrum, that why are we seeing such a widespread, it almost is a pandemic of ADD and autism these days. Thank you.
So the first thing is our food. It's our food. It's the food. Everything is just processed. There's so much junk in our food. And it's still that way. There's been many times where the government was supposed to have cleaned up the food and made things wholesome and organic. But it's really our food, and all the things that are in the food is one that I think is happening. It's also can be the pollutants in just our air, our water that wasn't there before. Then you also have the idea that we're able to diagnose more now than we ever have been. So there was probably a lot of Asperger's or ADD, ADHD that was just simply not diagnosed. I know that when I was a kid, it wasn't ADHD, it was the bad child. It was the disruptive kid. And the tolerance was much lower for children. I think it was one of my daughters, which daughter was it? It was one of my daughters that the teacher said, do you know that they stand while they do their work? That was not tolerated when I was a child. You sat, period. So I think that's also an issue, is that we haven't adapted our education system to fit that. On the spiritual level, as far as dementia and Alzheimer's goes, my theory is that it hits kind of two ways. One is, to me, it's people who have had traumatic events or painful lives, and when they get to the end, they forget. It's almost as if it's a choice to not remember. The other one is that when they're getting ready to leave, it's too painful to leave, so they forget. It's easier for them, the person, to separate. The soul doesn't care because the soul is fine, but as the person, it's easier to separate. As far as the Asperger's goes, that is one because of our food, I believe, and I really believe that, and I've thought this for a while now, of course, after I had my children. We do not pay enough attention to pregnancy. We do not pay enough attention to what the mother deals with, goes through, eats, breathes when she's pregnant, because you could probably look at each one of my children and tell what I was dealing with by their personality at that time. I don't think that we nurture mothers enough yet, because everything the mom is feeling, the baby's feeling. I had one pregnancy where I had to move, and there was a period where I didn't know where I was going to move to. That's an anxious state, right? That child has a lot more anxiety. I don't think that we pay attention to that. The other aspect that goes along with the Asperger's and also like schizophrenias and stuff is it's almost as if they're working on different dimensions. They're not just working on this third dimension, they're working on other dimensions as well. I have a daughter who has Asperger's. She's not here tonight, so I can say that. And I can tell you she's at least working on like 5 different dimensions. So it's part of that. And I find that with like the schizophrenias too, is that we're working on different dimensions. As far as the cure, I'm not sure what we have to clean up our food. We really have to clean up our food. We have to clean up our diets. I personally think that energy medicine is going to become much more of a thing in the future versus taking pills or drugs. I think it's going to really become much more of a thing. Even doctors, I think, will prescribe, go home and do this meditation. I see that in the future, like down in the future. I really think we're going that way. That would be another thing. And then my biggest thing is, I know that there's that thing like, oh, she's pregnant and oh, open the door. I don't think that we pay enough attention to the moms who are pregnant. That's a really big thing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, April. And so if they are working on different dimensions, do we say they're inattentive because their consciousness is not just in this dimension, in this 3D world? It almost is like, okay, instead of 100% consciousness being in this world, it's like 30% there, 20% there. So that's why the inattentiveness, that, okay, I have this much, I have just 20% attention in this 3D world, but other ways, what would you say, April, to that?
Yeah. Well, the ADHD is a wiring issue. It's in the body. It's more of a wiring issue. It's high energy, which, by the way, we need high energy people. We need people who don't sleep. We need people who are super active. The issue more with me with that is being able to focus. So they could be in other dimensions, but that one's more of a wiring issue. Now, like with the Asperger's, what I find like with my daughter is that they'll actually jump into different dimensions. Like there's just the questions that she'll ask me. I'll just kind of look and just say, well, don't you ever think? And I'll be like, no, I don't. But that's because she's in a different space. She's in a different realm, right? So no, I think the ADHD is more of a wiring. And we live in a very anxious state. We live in a very high pace, fast, go, go, go. There's no relaxation. There's much less going out in nature. You take the ADHD kid out in nature for an hour, he'll calm down, right? So that's what I think it is, but it could be other dimensions as well. Their mind is scattered with that one.
Perfect. Thank you. Caesar, did you want to talk about this? I think at some point in time you said something about Bashar saying that we have more, the ADHD is more, or the autism is more a faster frequency, and we are giving birth because somehow we are moving towards a new earth that requires that faster frequency. So you want to explain that?
I don't know how well I can explain it. So it's got a lot to do with a lot of everything that April touched on, as far as, the frequency that the mother carries while carrying the baby. And that in turn is formed into the baby. And that kind of determines, the frequency in which the baby is set on. And it's always a super high frequency, when you're birthed. But there is a lot of, in the early stages of childhood, infancy, and stuff like that, that there is that calmness, and then there's that high excitement, but the frequency never changes, even though they're in a calm state and a relaxation state, which we tend not to do, like April was saying, as much anymore these days, just because it's not, our world is just fast paced. That doesn't mean we're on a high frequency. That means we're just go, 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 like she said. I really couldn't have said it better. As far as the frequency goes, and being born into that with the with some of these diseases and illnesses that they're labeling as dementia, ADD, and stuff like that. So the planetary the planetary consciousness overall is shifting into a new dimension, and it's slowly been happening for the past 20 or 30 years. And I believe that we touch this soon by 2034, and I think they'll be visible. I mean, just like ETs are here now. They've been, but they're on a different frequency than us. So our eyes, our aperture isn't able to visually see that frequency, because they can, the visual can only go so far. So that would be like, trying to see something that's on channel 4, but you got your dial set on channel 2. You're not going to pick up that frequency. You get what you're tuned into. And unfortunately, our eyes are only capable of so much visual as far as that goes. So, I mean, they've got, testing devices where they walk into a room and they pick up, electromagnetic fields, temperature, they pick up movement, everything but the actual visual. So they know there's something there. Some people call it spirits. Some, have, described it in many other ways, but, overall it is what it is. As far as the illnesses go, I couldn't have said anything more than April really said. Honestly, the food is just, chemicalized, and, that's all being transferred into the baby, while the mother's carrying, and it comes out that way. Then you got, a diagnosis and a pill for everything these days. And if the mother, I mean, it can have a lot to do with the father too, being on certain types of medication at the time of impregnation, and then the mother's on various pills for this, that, and the other thing, to aid the birth and help the pregnancy. And that is all, translated into the baby, into the bloodstream, and then it carries on and comes forth. And then you have things like we have ADD. Back then, I just don't think they labeled it as such. And, they got a label and everything for a behavior these days, and a pill for everything. But we do things a lot different in the West than they do in the East. In the East, you go to, they don't have doctors, so much. And you probably know in India, here there's a doctor on literally every corner, and that's barely enough. In other places of the world, there's, the doctors are so far and few in between, but it's not necessary. You go to a doctor in the East, and you're getting prescribed herbs and, things of that nature. For everything, there is a God-made natural anything for everything. Yeah, so I think, the contribution to the dementia and stuff like that, and being on another frequency as such, is much related to what, like April said, it's called for, it's needed. That energy is just, it's just called for. But yeah, it has a lot to do with the intake, what we put in our bodies, and, what we're tuned into. And it's almost like people coming on their second, timeline here in the past 50 years are just like they never left. Things have not changed much. And overall, if you look at, where we was 100 years ago versus where we are now, really not a whole lot has changed. Even in the way of technology, we're still flying around in tin cans. Not so safe, but yeah, so April hit it out of the park.
Thank you so much, Caesar. So if we were saying that autism, so the similarity between dementia and autism is, if you're saying autism is also in different dimensions, dementia is also like that person is in the other dimension, right? Partially. And they're in this 3D world. Like they're more in the other realm than in this 3D world. So I think I heard I don't know who said this, if it was Anthony William, medical medium, or Dr. Joe Dispenza, since I've listened to them more often, but they said that these days the body is outliving the brain. So the brain is the one that is decaying, and that's why there is so much Alzheimer's and dementia. So if our body would match the brain, then both would decay at the same rate. But because of, I think, the way we've been eating food, it's much more better quality than whatever 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, right?
Yeah, you can even, I mean, Sadhguru made a point a while back about, just the quality of even the fruits and vegetables that we grow today, because now they're, enhanced to grow faster and bigger, and over the years having done this, it's literally depleted the actual nutrients that we would have got out of, one banana, 50 years ago. We'd have to eat probably 30 of them to match that one banana back then. So even today, I mean, to eat fruit, unless you're growing it in your own backyard, but the seeds that you're using are the seeds that have been depleted. So we got to get back to the realness of things. I was watching a show on like PBS last week, and they were talking about, indigenous people and, how to grow food without the chemicals. And they were like laughing at the people saying, wow, that's interesting. They're like, we've grown food like this forever and ever and ever. We didn't have chemicals in Dow Jones and, things of that nature. And nobody ever starved, and we were able to feed everybody.
Roundup. That's what the wheat and the corn is impregnated with, right? Roundup.
Yeah, and so funny that every between the hours of 12 and 6 a.m. you see 1,000 commercials saying, if you've been exposed to Roundup, get a hold of this lawyer. They're really just checking their stats. But what's funny or not so funny is that they're still treating the crops with the same stuff today. Nothing's.
Yeah, no, everybody like who knows that like quite a few people in the group are gluten-free, and they go, we ate gluten all our life. I'm like, the gluten right now is different. The wheat right now is different. It's everything is infested with Roundup. The grain is infested with Roundup, and that's why the first things you do is take out the gluten so that it doesn't. It's supposed to cause what's called leaky gut. So it causes holes in our gut. So any food we are taking, we are not absorbing the nutrients from the food. So that the gluten is the best thing to take out. And the easiest thing I feel out of all the removal, gluten is the easiest thing to take out of our diet.
Take it out?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain how to remove the gluten?
No wheat, no pasta, no.
Okay, just simply don't buy it.
Yeah, no bread, no pasta, no. I mean, there's gluten-free dough, but I feel even gluten-free dough then has corn in it. So I got this loaf after 1 year. I said, okay, finally I'll give in and I'll buy a loaf of gluten-free bread. I ate it, but then I saw the ingredients and it had corn in it. Because they do gluten-free, then becomes, and so corn is also not part of our diet. So I mean, I can't even eat the bread. So go back to square one where I was not eating any bread anyway. So.
And I gotta say, you look great, Poonam.
Thank you.
I have literally seen an awesome transformation in the past several months.
Few months, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you.
Great transformation.
Thank you. Patricia is doing it. She's on week 3 or week 4 of it. So she's doing it as well. we begin to see the changes. Ellen, since you asked the question, did you want to add more to the question, or did you have any input?
The answers were quite thorough and comprehensive, and I nodded my head because I recognized symptoms, experiences I've had with my dad and with my niece. Schizophrenia that April mentioned, absolutely. Lots of parallels. Absolutely spot on, both Caesar and April, with your analyses. Thank you. That's quite helpful with my past experiences and trying to be a supportive, loving sister to my sister, who's tasked with caring for my niece Jenna for the rest of her life. And then the task will fall to the niece and nephew, who are boy-girl twins, who are 30 years old, to take care of them when, as I mentioned in a prior meeting, when my sister and her husband do pass away. So she's slated to be admitted, hopefully, to a group home in the next year or two. We'll see what happens. That would certainly be a godsend, but it's been, it is a life sentence, no matter having help, special schooling. The fundraising is lifelong, it's constant, so it's quite the challenge. But my sister has matured. She is, without benefit of spirituality per se, she is naturally has evolved spiritually, I believe, just through this experience. And she's quite open-minded. I share with her, she's my closest friend, share with her lots of what goes on, and it all resonates. She says it makes a lot of sense, but I don't push. I've learned the hard way. Pushing any family or friends is not my business, you know. So thank you for your expertise and for listening. This is a near and dear to my heart.
It's like when I come back to April, I'll ask that question. I'm going to make a note, mental note, that I need to ask the question, but it may help you, Ellen. Thank you. Moving to Ken. Ken, did you want to say something about this topic?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not really, when it comes to schizophrenic and some of the other labels or different things going on, the Alzheimer's and whatnot. But what I can relate to by just listening is seeing how the programming occurs in everyone, and how either the mind, the body, our emotions, and our spirits are affected by our programming, what we've been around, what are we putting in our body, our traumas. And I can see in myself on so many things that it's like being rewired, or how I'm listening to people and taking in the information and understanding things that I wasn't able to before. And then my mother did pass away a couple of years ago. She was 99. She, with dementia, it was getting much, much worse. And then just really seeing people. So once I've realized, when I experience something or in tune, then I start to understand things better. But I have to kind of like dive into or want to learn. So it's, again, there's so much more that I need to learn. I'm only going by my experiences on so many different things that I can relate to. And I too, very, very much, like Caesar was saying, we're living in a world where everything's pills and whatnot. And I think we're numbing people. We're not really allowing people to live out what is naturally there. And I'm always been strong on what is natural is going to heal. And I'm a really big advocate on the woods and what is natural, and growing my own vegetables and doing different things. And without a doubt, you feel a lot better. And then a huge thing is being around like-minded people that are healthy in any one of those realms will actually activate a healthy way of being and understanding things. So, and this is what I'm aiming for more and more and more, where I'm allowing my inner GPS to kind of take me to what I need to learn. I think that it's happening more naturally now than it ever has. And in lots of ways, I feel like I'm much more healthier than I've ever been. So it's sort of like waking up those parts of me that were asleep or numb. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. So one of the discussions I had with my best friend as well is what you bring up, Ken, is so if we have a deep spiritual understanding, and this is for Ellen, that person is outliving, like their body is outliving their brain, what happens is we may end up, so this is where Eckhart's teachings help, right? We will be so attached with our daughter role, or so attached. And the other thing can happen in a wife and husband situation, or a mother child, or father child, parent child relationship, is the child, while caregiving for their parent, will get so attached with the caregiving that begins to give them meaning in their existence. So that overtakes and overpowers their existence. So that's the identity, the new identity. And you know, it feels so great, right? I'm doing the greatest selfless thing that I can do is take care of my parent. But in that itself, the ego is enhancing itself, because what are we doing? We're diminishing our power.
Exactly.
Right? In the caregiving of the other, we are diminishing our power. So that's something you can tell your sister, that she has to balance that. Where is she diminishing in all this external doings of all autism ID entity? Identity is I and D entity. So making an ID of your entity. So that one thing, where is my mothering role ending? That I knew how to strip it very early, like 10 years back, 10, 12 years back. Because you learn from Eckhart, that's one thing, that my ego is going to go attach itself to that role, right? Chapter 4 of A New Earth, roles and how our identity builds on roles. And that's the discussion we had on our walk, is how people, when they're caregiving, it becomes almost like a codependency. Now you're deriving your sense of self from the caregiving of this human being, right?
I experienced that firsthand, taking care of both my parents and especially my father for many years. Had I been spiritually involved and learning at that time, I would imagine I would have been so much better off, because I suffered just out of ignorance, attaching, and tears and meltdowns, and devastation for years after he died, self-neglect, and it just all unnecessary had I been clued in. But the practice happens when and how it's going to evolve in our lives. So
Yes.
the time is always now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to offer that to everyone, that know of your mothering role. Like Eckhart says, by the time your child is 11, 12, you're done with mothering. Like then you become a friend. Like no longer does a child, like when they're little, Eckhart says, when they're 6, 7, they don't know, they go hit the stove, right? The hot stove. So you kind of have to say stay away from the stove. They kind of protect them, right? But then he says by the time they're 11, 12, and they can figure things out, you have to let go, let them make their mistakes in their life, and they're grown up now. You be a friend more like a guide, not so much as a friend, but more like a guide than the role imposing, and then you're smothering the soul from flowering, right? So don't smother the soul.
Right, and you're mentioning something now that I'm learning about, alcoholism, that it's going to be the alcohol that's going to stunt the growth. But then in many cases, it will be the spouse, whether it's male or female, that will say, I'll change them, I'll help them, I'll heal them, the exact same way what you're saying. And you got to realize you got to let it go. But then being the enabler or the one who's trying to fix is doing just as much damage as the one who's can be drinking in kind of a odd way. But it's amazing how our addictions or how our behaviors can really alter ways of growing up.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight. Thank you, April, Caesar, and Ken. And now on to Patricia. Did you want to say something about this topic?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Before I start, can we after talk about the soul contract
Yes.
a little bit? Because I know you mentioned maybe we continue with that. And it actually brings it to it a little bit what we were talking about, because on one hand we have what I think the progress in technology, medicine, and the greed of wanting to produce more for less money, sell more, and then all the food is being wasted, but the food is really even like not valuable to human body, but produces more sick people. So now we have the medicine, because now exactly we have to develop treatments, pills. I would say it's all ego, really. that for me. So when the body outlives the mind, I mean, it's almost like you have spirituality, and then the ego that tries to take over and, feed itself. So, brain, look at me, humans can right now clone humans. I mean, we can do all this incredible surgeries. So human mind is amazing, the progress. But if it's not accompanied with or controlled in a sense by heart, by spirituality, it does horrible things. And that's where all the suffering is. And so that's about medicine. I remember watching a movie when I was little, and it amazed me. It was a movie about about America, some kind of war, and the soldier got wounded, and the American Indian healer took him in the tent. And so he was not just trying to do the surgery on his arm or whatever was wounded from a shot, but he was treating the entire person. He was bringing the spirits. He was, putting, I believe, the body on a higher vibration for healing. And I find it fascinating. And I said, that's the truth, because you can't just heal the body. It's like, and today's medicine, almost, I feel like every drug, when it heals one thing, but then it destroys or really, makes other parts sick. All the medicine that the liver has to process, all the chemicals in it. Yeah, it's just, it's just tough. So it's complicated. And also when April was talking about pregnancy, I had the same experience because my kid, I mean, she is anxious. She is, you know, a lot of it. And that uncertainty that I felt during pregnancy, I came to this country. I was not even married for a while. Like half the pregnancy, I got married to her dad because I was from Poland, an immigrant. I did not know. So the uncertainty of everything, I was living it. And I guess the frequency, that I brought her, I mean, she is very, very smart. So it didn't give her any, like mental, like lowered her ability to function in this world in this way. But the emotional part she took from me during the pregnancy. And that was tough to see because we hope as mothers to bring a child to this world and we want the best for them. We want to take care of them, protect them, teach them. And yet not knowing that pregnancy, I mean, I listen to classical music, like try whenever I could to put myself, but I guess deep down, my beliefs or not understanding that it has to be addressed a little deeper, not just on the outside through music, but I tried. And yeah, food is very problematic right now. It is like 3/4 of every supermarket is filled with food that makes us sick. And I see, people filling out their wagons because for the same amount of money that can buy so much more. When I try to follow the medical medium and really eat healthy and fruits, vegetables, and stay away from eggs and gluten and fats and stuff. I mean, my wagon is half full, but I pay more money. So it's almost like the economy of it. But then I spend less money for medication. I guess I don't go to doctors. I feel better, so I don't have to drink alcohol, take pills and stuff to just live with the pain. So I guess you got to really have enough information to make decision for yourself and think about it. I want to take care of my body. So what I'm eating, I want it to actually nourish it, not to poison it. But pollution's in the air, plastic, there's so much we can do, but that's why the detox help to remove and just really help your body heal, accommodate the process. And maybe like April said, by the time we get to the elderly age, we wouldn't have to forget. Maybe the dementia part of it will be that we want to remember our life because we actually lived it consciously. So we don't have to just try to forget. And on the other hand, we didn't have all that toxic metals, heavy metals that stopped our brain from functioning and all this wiring from happening. So we actually have still a working brain that allows us to be conscious, maybe. And yes, and the fact that the child is being born and already has from the mothers and from the father, from even previous generations, a certain level of things to deal with, and then we feed it mentally, physically with food, mentally with thoughts that we tell them. Our beliefs become their beliefs, and we kind of feed them, right, when they're so receptive to the environment with so many bad things, that. So for the first few years of their life, they just have no choice almost but to, eat what we give them to eat, think what we tell them, how we teach them about life, about in this process called socialization, right? And then they spend almost the rest of their life trying to undo it. Heal from the food, change their diet, live healthy, read different books. So that's where maybe the soul's contract come in. No? Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So, Ellen, I don't know how receptive your sister is going to be, but Medical Medium does have prescription for ADD and autism, because it's like he says it's stage 4 Epstein-Barr and heavy metal, and that's where the dementia. So the similarity is the same. The dementia is the same thing. He says that because especially for older generation, there was so much mercury. If y'all remember, people used to get mercury fillings, right? They were not the plastic crowns that we wear. They had mercury fillings. So there's a lot of mercury in, and if they've eaten fish that is heavy in mercury, then we have a lot of, supposedly at the division of the left and right brain, there is a lining. That's where the metal deposits, and that's where the dementia starts, Alzheimer's and dementia, because of heavy metals depositing. So if they were doing the heavy metal detox, the metal wouldn't deposit, it would get cleansed out of the system. And
Wow.
that's why the heavy metal detox is really, really important. And they can go to an integrative medicine, like somebody who's doing functional medicine, like find a good functional medicine doctor in your area. Dr. Mark Hyman is very famous in the functional medicine, like in the pop culture of functional medicine. He's very famous, but then I'm sure there are different functional medicine doctors, because I know Gracie lives in New York, and she says she swears by her functional medicine doctor. Like she really loves her functional medicine doctor, but the functional medicine doctor will put them through cleanses, right? Severe cleanses that will cleanse the toxins out of their body, and that'll help the behavior as well. And sugar and gluten is 2 things that they're going to remove for AD autism. So if they're eating gluten and sugar, that's not the proper diet for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, April. So going back to the soul contract, what I was going to say to Ellen, and before I was directly going to say to Ellen, I said, I should probably start. I know we've talked about this topic quite a bit, that the autistic kid chose the mother and father, as well as the mother and father chose that challenge for this lifetime. You want to talk about that? That's the soul contract, right? So you want to talk about the soul contract of those, the dynamic of those souls. Thank you.
Is that your mental note? Is that your, yes, okay. So you were right on track, right? Patricia knew you were going to, yeah.
Yeah, we're frequency matching, right?
Yeah.
We're tuning in.
So everything is a soul contract. Everything is in agreement with everybody, everything, everyone, including your animals, where you live, what country you live in, what state you're going to live in, if you're going to move, all of it is an agreement. The child, so my daughters are well aware of this theory, and if they get mad or something, I joke a lot with my children. They get mad at me or something, I'll be like, well, you chose me. So, and the whole theory where kids say, well, I didn't ask to be here. I'm like, yes, you did. You sure did. Right. And that was one of the first hurdles that I experienced, was, are you kidding me? I picked what? I picked these parents? No. Why would I do that? I picked this life. I picked these experiences. Why? And there are still some experiences that I've had in my life that when I get to the other side, I need some clarification. Like, really, I really need some clarification. But yes, so when the soul dies, when the body dies, the soul leaves, it goes back to the other side. It can choose to stay. It can choose to come back. It can choose to come back immediately. The time frame of that, so I'm saying time, but we know there's no such thing as time, but the time frame for that varies based on the soul and what the soul wants to do, what the soul wants to accomplish, what it wants to achieve. There are many times, and there is like a council where your soul will say, okay, I want to work on this, this, that. And there is a council, from what I've learned, that basically, you know, will kind of say, well, are you sure? It's a little risky. You might be on high risk for suicide, or high risk for addiction, or high risk for depression. And because everything is love on the other side, there's only one emotion, everything is love. The soul says, sure, why? We're going to come back here. It's going to be awesome. Right? It doesn't, and that's where I'm going to shake my soul and say, what the heck? But because there is only healing and love and wholeness on the other side, the soul's like, oh, it's okay. And I think sometimes the soul agrees to take on maybe a little bit more than what the human definitely feels like they can handle. I know there's been many times in my life where I certainly felt like things were too much. But like in your story, Ellen, that you were saying is, you know, I had many years of suffering, and I had many years of, you know, and you said kind of basically wasted years. Like when Eckhart says, you know, these people will come around and maybe they have to go to prison, and maybe this has to happen. Eventually they will suffer enough, and that will wake them up. So that also is perfectly designed, your suffering, to wake you up. Everything is meant to wake you up. So with my girls, I have definitely stopped, and I have definitely said, really? Because each one of my children have their own challenges, right? And I've been like, really? You, all of them? I couldn't get one out of the bunch that had no challenges? Like, really? You know, like my youngest daughter was born 90% deaf. I had to run an hour and 10 minutes away every 3 months for the first 2-3 years of her life. Really? I chose that. She chose that. Because babies, you wouldn't believe how fast your ears grow. So we had to get new molds. Really, so it's actually 2 months. So every 3 months we had to go get new molds for her ears, because her hearing aids wouldn't fit. And hearing aids have to be these kind have to be a closed system, can't be any air, no air leaks, or they'll squeak. So that's a lot, right? But I did pick it, and you picked it, and then you also picked the things that would happen. So if you had bad things happen, if you had molestation, if you had physical abuse, you and that soul knew, that other person, when I say soul, I mean other person, agreed to that. You knew that was going to happen. That was the catalyst to your spiritual journey. You knew that. Now, in the human perspective, it's not, you can't understand it. If you're going to look at it through the human eyes, you won't understand it. It won't make sense. But if you look at it through the spiritual perspective, you're like, oh, yep, that sure did. I get it now. Because now I went through that. I felt like I was this bad human, or this bad person. I felt worthless. That started me learning. Now I know I'm awesome. That's how it works. It gets very complicated to where even us on this panel, we agreed to be together in this life. If you would have asked me 2 years that I'm going to be on a panel live, ain't no way. No way I would have been live on Facebook or YouTube with people I don't even know. This not happening, right? So even we agreed as souls to be together, to come together. It gets very complicated to really, when you really try to wrap your mind around it. But it is all perfectly designed, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be at this moment. Like Eckhart's been saying lately is, act as if you chose it, because that's exactly where you're supposed to be.
Incredible. Thank you so much, April. And not always do we have to take birth in this 3D world to get our lesson. We can learn the lesson in the psychic realm, in that other realm itself, right? Not always is it a birth lesson, take a birth and go through a lifetime, learn the lesson, go back, come back. It's not,
So what I've gathered from all the things that I've read and listened to is that Earth school, we'll call it a school just to make it easy, is the hardest school. So there are other planets that we go to, other galaxies that we go to, but we come to Earth because it is the way to progress the fastest. But that does not mean that there is not learning on the other side. You do still grow, evolve, and learn. Source is always gaining information from your part of itself. You are part of Source, and it is always learning through you as a soul. But to learn faster, I almost think that we picked to go to Earth because I personally, and I'm just going to say this for me, I want off the karmic wheel. This is the place to do that. Like, I want off, right? I want to be in eternal happiness. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to pick one of the hardest lives I can have so that I can progress the fastest.
perfect. Thank you so much, April. Caesar, did you want to add on to her incredible?
Oh God, there's not much else I can say. I mean, we're talking about soul contracts. Soul contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you enter into this, pre-birth, obviously, and it's to aid in the evolution of your soul, like she just said. Things, even including the souls, are constantly ever expanding and growing, and at the rate that happens is again up to you. And I believe the same thing April just said, almost word for word. Earth is the playground for your greatest evolution, because where else can you experience all this drama and craziness? Our wonderful planet. And I think, prior to this happening, as the soul contracts are being created for you through each timeline, I think your spirit guides play a hand in this, in helping determine what lessons are for you. In the depth of the suffering that we obtain in order to learn that lesson. I know in my personal experience, my greatest lessons were created out from the deepest of my suffering. And, the contrast is that I'm most grateful for them times. The deepest suffering ended up to be the greatest blessings. And I'm grateful every second that I open my eyes in the morning that I can just recognize that and be aware of that, because so many people carry the difficult times in their life, and they create an identity out of it, not knowing that, hey, this is what you chose. This is what you signed up for. Like April said, as if you chose it, we did choose it. And until you really understand that and grasp that, there's going to be a little uncertainty, and life will be a little unclear to you at that point. But when you realize the nature of everything April just explained very well, you can then start to understand why things happen the way they do. It's everybody. I don't care who you are, from John D. Rockefeller and Carnegie and all these guys that are the most powerful people on the planet. At some point, will experience this low. Everybody does. Nobody's special in that way. It's just a big roller coaster, up and down, and and you just got to realize that and take the good. And I liked what Ellen just said. About had she known then what she knows now, she could have avoided all the suffering and stuff. Well, it was all part of the plan, and it's what got you to get to where you're at. Without that, event or situation taking place, you might not have evolved to where you're at today. So that was all part of the process, all part of the plan on both ends, on both spectrums. What other people go through in their sickness and their trials, isn't for our suffering. We can be there in aid. Does it hurt? Yes. To watch somebody suffer, but it's not for you. You're not supposed to take on this thought. That doesn't say not to be compassionate, but you're not supposed to take on the thought of, this hurts me, I miss them, dementia. I'm like trying to get to that state here, almost like a dementia type state, that I don't really think about the things that are the static and the chaotic stuff. Because that, dementia patients that I've been fortunate to be around, and experience some of what they experienced in different ways, have made me realize it's like they're not really suffering. It's not like, a physical pain. When you speak of dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that, you look at them and you're sad, because when they're looking at you and they're smiling and they don't know who you are, you don't think they know who you are. You're the one that feels the sadness and the pain, because you're thinking, that's my mom and she don't even know who I am. That's sad. But to your mom, it's got that smile on her face all the time. But nevertheless, soul contracts are they're a big deal. Everything that happens, we chose, and to go a little step further, we are the creator of that. Everything shows up in our life, based on our thoughts, what we give our attention to, what we think, what we feel. We are the creators of all. So, and this is all part of the soul contract as well. It just depends on how, you're going to arrive at the same destination, regardless. How you get there in a straight line or a squiggly line depends on you along the way.
Thank you so much, Caesar. Karina, actually, I'm hoping I pronounce your name correctly. She says, in regards to the kids, I would like to mention my personal experience. I've had very good parents. I never thought that I had anything to complain about them. I also had no signs that I had trauma at the young age. My relationship with them was impeccable. Well, recently I have figured out that I had big traumas in my early childhood. I had 3 accidents at the same eye, which caused me to lose vision. Based on spirituality, this had to do with bad vibrations I had in regards to my mother. Anyway, I think that I was already born with that vibration and I just attracted those accidents. My mom has nothing to do with it. Well, I think that she felt guilty when it did happen, but I brought her comfort. I never showed that up. So I think that the healing can happen both ways. And I think that we meant to be born by the parents who resonate with the vibration. April, you want to talk about this real quick? Because it's related to what you said. I think you're on mute.
I'm on mute. I'm talking away and I'm muted. So at first she says she had very good parents, didn't think anything that happened. And I never thought, I had no signs.
And then she had trauma. She realized that she had trauma, and that was like in the same eye, and the eye had vision loss.
In her early childhood, I had 3 accidents with the same eye, which caused me to lose face. So the mom gave her a trauma to the eye, right? Am I getting that right?
That's what her mother thinks that it is, and she thinks that it is from her mother. But I feel
Yes.
when you're not seeing the eye, like when you do something to your eye, there's something about the world you don't want to see. Just like when you
Mhm.
stop your hearing, that means something about the world you don't want to hear. You want to shut down the world. So I'm
Yeah.
going to lose my hearing loss. Is
Okay.
so if you want to explain that, thank you.
So it could be both, because she's saying that she did find out that she had a trauma, and then she had 3 accidents to the same eye, which is interesting that it was the same eye. And you're right. Anything, because so I think I've mentioned this before. Anytime that I have a physical illness that I can't figure out, I always look up spiritual reasons for the illness. And like, like with my neck, that is about having the weight on my shoulders, feeling like I have to deal with everything by myself. I know what it's for. So I always look, and the eyes is about not wanting to see the future, not wanting to accept the future, not wanting to see how things are going to play out or what's going to happen. It's usually related to fear, some sort of fear of the future and seeing. But she could have had past life issues that have also brought on the eye injury, also past life issues with either another mom or this soul in particular. But this soul could have been her sister in another lifetime, or could have been her mother again, or a grandmother, or even her child. So I think that all of this is, because she's saying, I think I brought that vibration in with me. If you think that, then one of the things to do is to do a meditation on your own, or a guided meditation, or go see a past life regression therapist and see, did you bring that vibration in? It's interesting though, because she's saying that she didn't think she had any abuse in her life. That's not seen. That's not seen.
It's matching the loss of vision, right?
Yeah. I have somebody in my life that I will say to them, you have to take the rose-colored glasses off. You're seeing everything that because it's all rose-colored. It's all la la la. And I'm like, no, honey. We need to really look at this. So she didn't see the trauma. And interestingly, we're having trauma to the eye. Healing, as far as I know, healing can happen. This is something that I'm obviously thinking a lot about right now. So I don't know that I fully understand it, because like I said to Patricia last week, I really like to understand things fully and then make them make sense. But from what I know is that you can, when you heal yourself, I know this part, you will heal your parents. You will heal whoever is involved, past, present, future. And the part I don't fully understand it exactly how it works, to the point where I can really explain it clearly, is how it heals other timelines. That's the one that I haven't cleared up yet. I know it does that. So not only if she heals that now, she will heal the parents, but she will heal her past lives, her past self, and also her future self, because she'll be clearing that out of the DNA and out of the timeline, so it won't happen again in the next lifetime. I know that one. It's the past one that I'm like, how does it really clear up the past one that I haven't nailed down? So we need to release guilt, and it's not controlled by us, right? So you did choose to come in and have those experiences, though, to clear up this eye issue, to clear up this vibration that you feel like you brought in. She did choose that, to bring that into this lifetime. That's something that she put on the list of, I want to clear up this vibration that I have with this soul mom. And so I'm going to have this eye issue that's going to direct me here, and I'm going to clear it up. Right? I'm just looking at this comment here. This is an interesting comment. I think that she felt guilty when it did happen, but brought her comfort. I never showed that up, so I think healing can happen both ways. That's very interesting. So I'm going to think about. It says but I brought her comfort. I never showed that. So she hid it. That's again not seen.
So there's a pattern, conditioned pattern in her of not being able to see with clarity. The awakening of intelligence, as J. Krishnamurti says, right? The awakening of intelligence is to see everything exactly how it is. That's our presence seeing, the witnessing faculty, as Eckhart says. So I want to explain this because it will help Karina as well. I want to explain the timeline part. So the way I understand from Dr. Joe Dispenza is when we raise a vibrational frequency, which is the fastest frequency, highest vibration. So not enough, we are in our 8th chakra, right? We have raised it all the way from 1, 2, 3, 4, raised it all the way up to the 8th chakra. Our future self, that is in the infinite possibilities, our future self, where there is no vision loss, where there is no hurt, where there is no pain, where there is no neck pain, our future self, since April, you have that future self in this present moment, when the vibrational frequency is raised, that future self is going to make the change, make the shift. But guess what needs to shift? What caused our present situation? The cells of the past, right? So by that change, the cells of the past will change. And then we make that permanent shift. Does that make sense? That's how the timelines get affected.
I see. And that's interesting because in the last few months, Poonam, I have been really focusing on the 8th and the 9th chakra.
So what I would say is create a vision board of seeing yourself like walking, like do pictures of yourself. Like if you have pictures from the past, right? Where you were physically active, like you went on a hike. So create a collage of those pictures, like on a wall, on your bedroom wall or something, and see yourself walking that fast. See yourself taking a 4-mile hike, right? And see yourself that there is pain, but you're working through the pain and you're still making that 4-mile hike. right? So somebody with Parkinson's did that. Like what she said, she was like debilitating, right? Wheelchair, Parkinson's with wheelchair, in a wheelchair. She was 70 something years old. She was an older woman. It's not like she was very young. I mean, we would think, oh, it's only somebody who was in their 20s can do it, right? She was an older woman. Her daughter, or I think her daughter, put like pictures of her, like walking, camping, pictures of her holding her grandson, right? As a 7-foot collage on the bedroom, one of the room walls. And she would like watch it like a mind movie. That's a mind movie, right? And what he says in Becoming Supernatural is do the kaleidoscope so that you get more focus, more attention, then play that mind movie over and over again. And it's like what I suggest to everyone is do it in Canva with music, right? So that you can see yourself being active. Like there's no pain, that you don't have any pain, and you're doing, cooking your Christmas meal or cooking your Thanksgiving meal without any pain, that you're picking up your grandkid can be 40, 50 pounds heavy, right? And that you're able to easily pick the grandkid up, which you may not be able to at this moment. I don't know. You're not able to pick up weights, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm not able to do anything right now, Poonam. I can't wash my floors, can't vacuum. I can't do anything without.
So
pain.
see yourself doing it without,
Yeah.
I mean, in the mind movie, but do it, like make it very tactile, make it very emotional. Just like I posted something couple of months back, maybe 3 or 4 weeks back, we were doing this divine love meditation, April. And the divine love towards the end, to take us through the chakras, she says, feel yourself that you're in a hammock and you're in a. So I was like, I was so deep in that meditation. I was feeling myself in the hammock and feel the softness of the blanket, right? I was really experiencing it. And then I realized there are 2 hammocks in my courtyard. The next day, or in the next couple of days, there are 2 hammocks in my apartment complex courtyard. It's like that's the power. The emotional field will pull the experience. We don't feel enough. Is she muting herself?
Yeah,
Unmuting
that's,
herself.
I can do that. I mean, I do it visually, but I can create a board and
Yes.
yeah.
I would
can take
strongly say put it on like a big pictures, right? Go to Canva, get it printed, get it sent to you, and put it all across, like what you have on the wall right now. Do the pictures of you hiking, vacuuming, everything without any pain, and just look at it every day for an hour or 2. That I'm going to be doing this, and this is how this lady, like you can see her dancing, you can see her like walking, and she was wheelchair bound.
Yeah. Well, I know Joe Dispenza says, I mean, he says, you can't tell me you're too old. You can't tell me that you know, whatever disease you have, you can't tell me you're too sick. You can't, he literally is like, I don't care what your excuse is. It can happen. So yeah. Patricia, for the teeth, the front teeth, one, it has to do with having like security and schedule and routine, but it also has to do with shame, being shy, being helpless. So if you just look up spiritual reasons for like broken teeth.
Thank you so much, April. Caesar, did you want to say something about Karina's the post that I put on the chat? Then we'll go to Ken and Ellen and Patricia. This was powerful.
Yeah, what was it regarding? Because I lost the chat thing. My screen timed out or something on me. It just give me what it was. Okay, there it is. Oh, trauma in the eyes. Yeah, yep. Beautifully explained. You were talking about creating this vision of bringing yourself back to perfect health. That's manifestation 101. It's one thing to have it on your mind, but to see it visually. And that's what she was saying about, creating the images so you can visually see that. So we've learned along the way that what you think, feel, speak on, stuff of this nature, when you think it, say it, write it, your chances increase like tenfold. That manifesting it, and the message that you're sending to your cells that will create that vision to come back, or that neck issue, is you're guiding them into perfect health as that they were in their natural state. Possible 100%. As far as this trauma to the eye goes, I believe April hit it. It very well could be something that was brought in from the past life, a lesson unlearned. And that may continue until the lesson of what that trauma was involved with is healed. And how do we heal? We accept fully. Past life regression is probably a good idea. I've done probably a dozen or so successfully. So I can test that they do, they're effective in situations like that. April's analogy was pretty good on this one. I don't think I have anything else really to add.
The other part, thank you so much, Caesar. The other part I would add is if we know that the incident is occurring, or the metaphysical meaning is that we are not supported, acknowledge when you're supported. Like, even if somebody, like, Lakshmi, when she was just talking to you during our workshop, she said, I want a session from you, right, April? So acknowledge that support that is coming, right? And feel the excitement, feel the joy of having, that's how I feel. Like, not only is it the fact that how the workshops are going, or how the my excitement is each and every week, like setting up the Facebook live Q&A, like creating the image, putting the post. There's excitement about it. Like, already the excitement has started. The group meditation, creating the image, and then posting the contents. The joy is already flowing in that little action. Even with the workshops, the same thing, like setting up. Like today I send emails about the workshop for everybody. We're going to have workshops on 19th and the 20th of February. So keep your calendars free on the 19th of February. But just sending the emails and setting up the content, it itself like gives so much exuberant joy. So that will kind of overwrite the karmic, oh, I'm not supported. Right?
That's one thing that Bashar always, his number one message is to that excitement, and always build on the excitement, and that leads you to the next most exciting moment, and the next, and along the way, your frequency is just through the roof. And that is just, that's that momentum.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Caesar. Like, I would, one more thing, Caesar. I know we are taking a little bit longer since it's our last one for this year. So one of the things I want you to explain, Caesar, is the contrast. And when we were talking about why do we have, April was saying, right, we have all these challenges in our life. The contrast, how the desire is sent through. Why are we given the contrast? You want to explain that? Thank you.
Okay. In a nutshell, it's for our growth. Part of the soul contract. We have to experience the things that don't feel good to let us realize what we do. Understand to feel good. And it is our soul that is guiding us, always taking the path of least resistance to get us where we need to be and want to be, more so need to be, in everything that is good for our well-being. And that is necessary. The contrast is 100% a part of the process in getting to the next level or achieving the goal or learning the lesson or extracting the blessing. The contrast has to happen in order for you to get the result desired. Without the contrast, none of that is possible. So it's very important to not only embrace the things that don't go well, quote unquote, the things that don't feel good, the things that cause us suffering, embrace them, because they are a very much just as important of any part of the process in healing or growing in any way, and gaining, spiritual, enlightenment, or, just raising your vibrational frequency. That's all part of the process. So the contrast, again, is just extremely important in the creation of everything that you invite and, attract in this lifetime.
Thank you, Caesar. And I wanted to give a personal example. So the contrast for me was a very difficult mother, right? Y'all have heard me talk about it in Facebook Live Q&A, that my childhood was very, very difficult, even financially difficult, being very poor. She had a violent temper, just like Eckhart's father. So, but the contrast makes us send that rocket of desire, as Abraham Hicks says. Because it's challenging, then I don't want to live there anymore, right? If she wouldn't have been challenging, the desire won't arise, right? If everything was comfortable, she was feeding me, I had nice clothes, I had padded everything, like Eckhart says, right? If you were in a spa, somebody was massaging you, somebody was feeding you nice things, and where is the reason you want to evolve? The contrast, as Abraham Hicks says, actually makes us send the desire out and ask, and it will be given. And the moment the desire rose, the given is there. Now, the thing she cautions about is if you ask for the wrong thing, the momentum is already there. The wrong thing will also happen. So that's why we have to be in that high vibration. I mean, each teacher talks about the same thing, that you have to be in the highest vibrational state of loving kindness, compassion, and gratitude every single moment to moment to moment, because that's what's going to co-create your next future path, present moment, right? So that's what Abraham Hicks says, ask and it's given. Your inner being already is creating whatever you ask for. My inner being was already creating me moving to another country, right? I can see all the cooperative components. I can see, I went to an engineering school. I met my ex-husband. My ex-husband and I decided we were going to do a higher education in the US. We moved to the US. Why everybody was there, I can exactly see how it unfolded. But the desire I know is I didn't want to live with her anymore, right? And that's at age 10. I didn't want to live with her anymore. It was too much. I was suicidal, like when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. So it's like that desire, look where it is. I wouldn't have been here if that desire wouldn't have been if I wouldn't have followed my inner being, right? That, okay, whatever's unfolding is exactly how it unfolded. It was meant to be, right? So wanted to superimpose an example on the contrast. And so remember that is a grace, that is the moment of grace. That's where the gratitude happens for the contrast. It is there so that we can, if not, that's the default programming, right? Until we know how to create deliberately or conscious manner, until we know of our presence power, we just use the contrast to keep co-creating our present moment. That's creation by default or default programming and until we do the conscious manifestation or the deliberate creation. Ken, you want to say, I think you are like eager to say something, so I'm going to be on mute.
You can usually read me pretty good there. Oh yes, I love what's going on. And April, I do. I love how you express yourself. And when you were talking about you're not feeling good, you can't vacuum, can't do these things. And then just what's been going on over the last 2 or 3 weeks with many of us, I feel like we're all stepping up to the next rung of the ladder of pain and suffering. And you mentioned your kids, they're not easy, they're challenging. You had to deal with your youngest, bringing her to, and so here you are, you're always doing for everybody else. And so the very thing, all that energy you've been putting in everybody else, and now you're feeling, to me, you're feeling all this pain. And I love what Poonam was saying. And I feel like go into the pain, embrace it. To me, it's a huge part of your shadow. And it's trying to tell you something. It's trying to reveal something. And I heard you earlier say, 2 years ago, I'd never thought I'd be on a panel. Me too. Believe me, I'm mirroring you on that one. And and then also, I remember the first time I heard you, you said Wayne Dyer was the one for you. Me too. So there's so many similarities that I can hear with everyone on this panel and see a mirror. And where I am now, I'm realizing that uncomfortability in myself, I need to walk into it. And it's just like you were talking about the lady with the eye. To me, it was definitely something she didn't want to see. She got traumatized. She came in and she had to learn with her other senses, other parts of her, and that might have been neglected and not really being seen for a while. And then I look at myself and I go, I came in, I talked about my white light experience. I talked about with my mother and with different things. And I came in wanting to be loved. So I'm starting to see what's been going on now. It's almost like I can see all the pieces falling in place. And it's amazing. And I feel like this is the spiritual awakening. This is the other language that is helping me to realize that I need to, my pain is actually going to transform me. And I'm realizing that that's been a huge part of the fear. And the fear has so many different masks, so many different ways of showing up. And then how much of the love and support that I'm getting now in my life. And with this group, I feel like it's a mother to me. And as far as nurturing, the energy is so loving. And we talk about the earth, Mother Earth. We talk about what's going on inside. We're mirrors. Whatever's going on the outside is a mirror on the outside. And those things are coming together incredibly, how they interconnect and how important it is that we go through certain ways of being, certain challenges, and how they wake us up. And now I can really see that the things of being critical and judgmental and whatever, but then I can say, how did I interpret that? But all those things pushed me to crack open to now to be able to be who I am today. And so much what you talk about, April, and Caesar also, and Poonam, everybody, I feel like we're all in position and we're all exactly where we need to be to learn the next lesson. We're always in preparation, and everything, like you were saying, April, there's nothing in this world that doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen. So, but it's just so incredible, so incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken, for reflecting on the incredible. And the most incredible thing is, while I was talking to April about Karina, and I pointed at the left eye, she just posted that it was, and when I was pointing it, when I'm pointing at the correct eye, she was injured in this eye. And she says it's the left eye. How incredible is that? I hadn't read the comment because I just got her earlier comment, and then I had not read the rest of it. So something incredible is going on, miraculous in this group. So I'm looking forward to 2022. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
Continuing on the incredible. So Ellen, did you want to say something since you started this whole topic and conversation?
Sure. I love the insights of everybody. I would like to discuss just a few random things as well. I have become aware of, perhaps through this group or some other groups, awaken.com, extremely comprehensive, past, present, future, teachers. It's just wonderful, as if we don't have enough information, knowledge to soak up and love. My early teachings many years ago were Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer. Sometimes I feel like affirmations are kind of simplistic, but they really do tie in. And Edgar Cayce, who has a spiritual bent. My mother, this was incredible. I suppose we all could say we suffered in dysfunctional childhoods. She had her father was an alcoholic. I mean, 3 weeks in the street, dead to the world. Her brother went blind, could have driven the father to the drink, I don't know. But my grandparents spent many summers at the Jersey Shore trying to find a cure for my Uncle Jack. Interestingly enough, this happened when he was 13, he was hit with a baseball, went blind. At some point in his future, he was able to, there was some kind of a cure available, and he did not want it. He refused it. I don't know what that was about. Another thing Eckhart mentioned in a book, and this, my mom passed 16 years ago, consciousness, unconsciousness, a portal into the next world at death. Death is a portal. My mom was unconscious most of her life, in my opinion. Victim, martyr. At death, my father wrote in his therapy for moving on with widows and widowers when she passed. He joined a group, a lovely group. He wrote as therapy for the group an indoctrination of sorts about his life and seeing his children. And it was a beautiful, beautiful tribute to my mom. And in it, he wrote that he could see the light in her eyes when she died, her face, and he described this, her face lit up and she came to life at the last minute. And I didn't think much of that, except 2 weeks ago when I read that can occur. Some people who are unconscious their entire lives may open at death into consciousness if they have suffered enough in this earthly life and if they are open. Interestingly enough, my father did not. And if you are not amenable to growing consciousness at death, at that portal, you just dissolve into unconsciousness, which I believe he did. But when I read that about that realization that my mom, I said, dear God, she suffered unbelievably during her life. And if she really did ascend into consciousness at her death, I was thrilled beyond belief. And I haven't shared that with anyone except the group. but I felt so warm and wonderful. So that's a private moment, but hadn't known that till I read that in one of the books, Eckhart's books, and I said, well, my God, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. But both your dad and mom are back in the same one consciousness into infinite love. That is what April is saying. Your dad didn't become unconscious and your mom did not become conscious. It's not like your dad went one place. There's no hell. Hell is here in our mind. Our mind creates suffering, which is hell, but there is no hell. Everything is back to the one consciousness. And it's kind of difficult to explain. We say consciousness is passing through us, but in the quantum field, it is non-local. It's not passing. It's not like consciousness or presence is I am presence. That would be the wrong term. The one consciousness, it's like Eckhart tries to explain with the sun analogy, right? He says the one consciousness is there and we are the ray of the sun, right? And the ray of the sun retracts back to that same sun. We are different rays of the sun and it retracts back. It's like the light bulb, right? It's like the electricity is somewhere in the power plant. It travels and it animates. So it's traveling and that energy form is traveling from the non-local and it's animating all these forms. And half of them, as Eckhart says, go to sleep by the rotation of the earth, one half sleeps, then the other half wakes up, then one half sleeps. I mean, how amazing is that? That it animates these forms, billions of forms in one half of the planet, then makes them go to bed, and then animates billions of forms in the other half of the planet. So your mom may have awakened, but again, that's so like, both your mom and dad would have gone through a life review when their soul or spirit left the body. And she would have chosen her lessons. But the fact that she became a little bit more conscious before she left, her lessons may be not as harsh as what your dad may choose. And again, back to April's description, he could have chosen to get his lessons in the other room or come back down to earth and get his lessons. The same with her. Her lessons could be there or in this realm. It's a cycle. That's what consciousness is doing through all of us, right? So we understand, once we understand the eternal part of, yeah, we are labeling this as mom, this is dad, but that is just the consciousness, one consciousness reincarnating in this form that is for this lifetime, my mother, but in the next lifetime, that person can be my daughter or son or my father. I don't know. Or I mean, we hoping that we all do what April says, is not reincarnate anymore, right? This be the last, and then we happily live in the other realm, happily ever after. Okay, Patricia, you can wrap it up. You want to say something? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Everything's so fascinating. I really, wow, everybody's story and experiences. What came up for me just now listening to all of you about soul's contract is that I think, but it just came up that I'm here to change. And my entire childhood, everybody, my father didn't want to have a girl. He wanted constantly to structure me and, protect me and this and that's, like, I'm not capable of doing it on my own. I was not allowed to speak because what do I know? I'm a child. Then my mom was telling me, oh, you have to be more outgoing. You have to change. You have to change. That my teachers, in order for me to be a good student, which I wanted to be, you have to, do this and do that, and you don't speak too much. It's like, even my bosses and my staff, everything, and I was fighting it. I was fighting. It's like, I don't want to be changed. I don't want to change. Why do I have to change? Why can't you accept me the way I am? You know, I'm trying so hard to be a good daughter, a good student, and everything, and it's never good enough. So I think that, and then it came up to me right now, it's because I was called, or I contracted myself to experience the change because I can. Because everybody else in my life, like I see how my parents just repeating the patterns, my brother who stayed there repeating the, and I had to leave Poland to come to United States to follow the path, to be far enough, maybe physically, to question my culture, question my upbringing, question everything, and open up to even meeting this group was just another way of the universe say, yes, you are on the right path. You're here to change, but change what? And so that's, you know, change everything, because all my programming, like Poonam a few sessions away, everything is being stripped from me. You know, my role as a mother, that my role as a wife, my role as an employee, the best ever. It's like my role even as daughter, who is always there for my parents. I just left. So, you know, yet again, everything is being stripped away, and that ability to change. And in the same time as I'm changing, I needed to find something I can trust. So the growing faith and trusting that consciousness, trusting and being in the now, that's what's the source of trust. So even the topic we discussed also in the panel and group meditation about source of all trust, everything is opening. Every one of you is opening yet another little piece of a puzzle that I'm learning about myself and my soul contract. And once you uncover it and know, you can go back. It's like, I don't want to go back to being in the darkness, to being unconscious. Now I just have to practice and cultivate the consciousness so I can keep going. Because I also wanted to get to a point in my life that I got it and I don't have to do anything else. So my lesson, I learned my lesson, I got my A in life, and leave me alone. I want to now sit back and be happy. But like Ken said, it's from, if I learned this lesson, now it's to another one, because that's what the life on earth is for, right? And it's better because if I'm thinking, what about all those souls that have the lifetime and they are living unconsciously? What do they do? What was their soul contract? Not to get conscious, I don't know, or maybe it was too hard and they have to then come back and do it again. Maybe, you know, it's like a trial and error too. That would be a
April,
question to
You
Ellen.
wanna answer her question real quick? Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for those that are unconscious, some of them come in here to be unconscious and to remain unconscious, because being unconscious allows them to play out the role that you needed to become conscious. So that is what, and this is, nobody can steal it. I'm just gonna put it out there now. The title of my book, if I ever write it, is called Angels in Disguise. Right? That's my book, universe. They're your angels in disguise, and they came here to be unconscious. and they're going to stay unconscious because they're playing a role for everybody they meet. That jerk at the grocery store is playing the role for you so that you can look at that jerk and go, oh, rocket of desire. I don't want to be like that. I was like that once in my life. Was that what I looked like? Oh, I want to be a better person. It's being done on purpose. So they chose to not become conscious. It's okay. They will have a lifetime where they will choose to become conscious. We will all become conscious. We will all wake up, whether you wake up on this lifetime or 1,000 lifetimes from now, we will all wake up because that is the ultimate goal for everyone. But there are times where you will come here and you have come here and you have been unconscious. And that's okay. Not everybody will wake up in this lifetime. I guess I've mentioned my stepfather before. He is very closed-minded. He's a good person. He's not a bad person, but he is not becoming spiritually awake in this lifetime. That's okay. And I understand now that each person plays that role. So don't worry about them because once they go back to source, they're conscious. Now, there are different levels on the other side. There are different levels, but everybody goes back to source. Everybody goes back to love. But there are some spiritual beings, that are more evolved. But I don't want you to think like, oh, he's, going to ground zero or something, but because he's not. But it's completely okay. Don't worry about him. And everybody has, their different amounts of times that they've been here. That's where you get the old souls. That's where you get the Sadhgurus and stuff. They're on Eckhart. They're on one of their last times around. And they will get there too.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible explanation, and also Caesar's text that you get there by realizing you're already there. Thank you very much.
So another magical, miraculous evening. The panel has made it an incredibly amazing experience, as well as everyone online. Christina, I'm sure she's there with Gustavo. Cecile has been online, Karina, of course, and Summer, our brilliant, mastermind behind asking so many questions. She's been posting a lot of comments that I have not had the chance to read through all of them. So, and Cecile is there. So Edith, Mike Craig, everyone that normally is on Facebook Live. So our virtual presence is there. So thank you so much for this beautiful, pure shared energy field of presence. Happy New Year. Do you want to quickly say something about the New Year? April, I'll let you go first.
Well, I wish everybody a happy new year. My only goal is to just grow, to evolve. I don't necessarily set out goals like I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I don't do that. And I feel like those put a lot of pressure. Most of them don't get fulfilled. Then we feel bad about ourselves. But my one goal is to continue on this journey, to continue to try to be in presence, to get closer to source. And that's my wish for everybody else.
Beautiful. Thank you. Caesar, New Year's greetings to the world.
Yeah, well, every day is a new year, a new day, new year, new moment, fresh and new, now always. And I want to extend my gratitude to not only this panel and all the members, but a special, very special thanks to you, Poonam, because you are always, without you, none of this is possible. So I would like to recognize you as one of the great spiritual teachers of our time, because you have brought so much joy and transformation to so many people I've witnessed over the years that just you attract them. And because of what you do and your dedication, I am extremely grateful just to have the opportunity to witness all the growth from so many people because of you. And that's my heartfelt gratitude for you and everybody on this panel. And this upcoming year is going to be the most amazing year for each and every one of us. And if you believe that and think that, it will be so. So looking very much forward to witnessing some awesomeness from this planet and everybody and everything in it. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much, Caesar. I'm deeply humbled, Caesar. Thank you for the gratitude. I'm like eternally grateful to all of you because you all have kept the energy up. It's been more than a year. It's almost going to be 2 years that we've had the Facebook Live Q&A. So all of you contribute in your energies into the panel. So the transformation is brought about through each and everyone's contribution. April, Caesar, Kelly, I know Kelly and Eileen are missing. Louise, Travis, and Ryan are missing as well. So, and Ken, Patricia, and Ellen have joined us, and everyone else online. Ken, did you want to say something about the New Year's greetings?
Yes, Caesar, I love what you said, and I agree. Poonam, you've been such an incredible, loving, huge part of my life, and it has made such a large shift in everything, and just with everybody. I just love how we're all interacting and loving and supporting one another in many ways we may not even be aware of. And I just want to, my New Year's resolution is I just want to keep going on my spiritual path into a higher level of consciousness. And I definitely want to cross country this year. So that's on my bucket list. So I just want to soak in so much nature. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ken.
Mhm.
Ellen, did you want to say something about the New Year greeting?
I am deeply humbled. I love everybody here and the commentaries from the virtual members. I echo everything that Caesar and April and Patricia and Poonam, you're our champion, a real old soul, a beautiful woman inside and out. Ken, so articulate and expressive, warm and loving. Yes, I will continue my spiritual journey together with all of you towards higher consciousness, growing and evolving with the beautiful souls in this group. Thank you very much. I feel blessed, grateful, humble, and thankful. Health, happiness, joy, peace, love in 2022 and beyond.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Thank you. Patricia, New Year's greetings. Thank you, Ellen.
Absolutely. I would love to wish all of you amazing New Year. I know it's artificial time thing, but we agreed to it. So let's honor that human part of the play of the form. So we're gonna throw fireworks and celebrate new hope. Yes, but it's a reminder that it's new. So we have that again every day, every moment ability to be present. And what came to my mind right now too, it was a picture. I used to watch the Miss of the World contest when the most beautiful women would come out. And it was like a funny joke that they would come out to the stage and they would say what they want. And the whole thing was, I want world peace. And, because they were beautiful and they were considered, dumb, the way it was being said and then made jokes of by comedians and stuff. But you know what? in the words itself, that's what I wish for everyone. I wish peace, because in that peace, in that stillness, we get that higher vibrations and everything else can happen. We can be there, that presence for others in that internal deep peace that we can offer. And if we have that and carry and cultivate peace within us, we offer that to everybody else we encounter. So let's be peacemakers in this new year. Thank you. Happy New
Beautiful.
Year.
Thank you, Patricia. And just like last year, this was my last year's wish, and it has continued to be the same. Peace, harmony, and abundance for all. Abundance of joy, abundance in health. And wishing everybody Happy New Year. Infinite gratitude to the panel for being here, and many blessings. Much love. Good night. We meet again
Bye.
next year. Good night. Bye.